Hi guys, David here. In today's video, we're going to make this cool little soap dish. Following on from our last video where we made a bathroom cabinet, we decided to stay on the same topic, and here's a little soap dish. In the internet you can find plenty of videos on how to make soap dishes, but they all need expensive tools like routers, table saws, lathes. So to make life easy, we made this one with a saw, a chisel and a square. It's made out of a piece of cedar, but you can make it out of pine or spruce or anything you can get your hands on. Let's get into it. Okay, so for this project, you're going to need some way of holding the work, like some clamps, a bench hook or a vise. You're going to need a piece of 3/4 inch material. I've got a piece of cedar left over from another project. Another piece of wood cut at a 90-degree angle. This will help you get your saw cut straight. A square, tape measure, a pencil, a narrow chisel. Now it doesn't matter exactly what width, and you'll see why in a minute. And some kind of saw. I'm using a crosscut saw. Okay, so the first thing I need to do is mark out the workpiece. I made a bit of a prototype earlier just to see how things go. So, according to my prototype, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to mark these edges, and you can see here I've got a space, I've got a full piece of wood, a space, blah, blah, and then oops, it didn't figure out. So make sure you have an uneven number so that you'll always have a space at both sides. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to measure from the end of my board 2 centimeters, which is something like 3/4 inch. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to take my chisel and I'm just going to lie it next to that 2 centimeter line and make a little mark. And then mark a line, and this piece I'm going to remove. And so on and so forth. Put my chisel next to the next line and make a little mark. Now, make your marks a bit wider than your chisel. If your pencil, actually in this case, isn't very sharp, it's to your advantage. It'll make the markings a little bit wider. So there you go. Here I've marked out 2 centimeters, width of my chisel, where I've marked the cross hatches, this is going to go. I've marked half of the thickness of the material, and I simply did it like this, look. I made a little mark, flipped it around, see I'm in the middle, and then just mark it. You can mark it all the way around. Okay, so now I've marked all the material which needs to go, and now I'm going to start making saw cuts along all these marks. Earlier on, I said I took a piece of wood that's approximately square on the end, like this piece, and this can help you if you don't find it so easy to get this saw straight. What you can do, you can butt this piece up, come in a little bit closer. You can butt this piece up about the saw thickness away from the line, and you can clamp all that down like this, and then just push your saw up against the edge of it, and that'll help you to keep your saw straight and 90 degrees. Now we're going to cut down halfway through the material only. cedar is really soft and nice for this job. So I'm just going to get on with it, and I'm going to cut out the rest of these pieces. So now I've made all these saw cuts down to the line of where we need to remove the material. And the next thing we need is to do these saw cuts. So I'm going to have to chop the board off here. That'll be the size of my soap dish. So now I'm going to make this cut off the end of the board, and then do these cuts. These are a little bit more difficult because they're along the grain. If you've got a rip saw, use a rip saw. If not, you can use a crosscut saw or any old saw. It'll just take a little bit more time maybe. Okay, so now I'm going to make these cuts down to half the thickness of the material. Because I cut it off here, I don't have a line, so I should just mark that line so that I can see where to go. Okay. If you've got a rip saw, use a rip saw. This is a crosscut saw. I've got a rip saw on the wall, but I'm going to use the crosscut just to show that it's not 100% necessary to have all the most expensive fancy tools. Okay, so now we've done all of these long grain cuts, all of our cross grain cuts, and now the fun begins. We're going to chisel out all of the waste. I'm going to use the bench hook again, just butt it up here. This is the chisel I used to mark out earlier. Now, don't be greedy. Take off about half of the material to begin with, like this. If you don't want to use the ball of your hand, maybe it's not a good idea. Use a mallet. And just cut out the material. And point your chisel uphill a little bit like this. And as you can see, I'm not going to go all the way to the end because I don't want to blow it out on the other side. I'm going to flip it around and come from here again. Now the cedar is a lot of fun. It's very soft and easy to work with. There we are. So now I'm just going to continue and chop out the rest of these. Okay, so I've chiseled out all the waste that we marked out on our cross-cut side. And now I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to chisel out the long grain stuff. Again, don't be greedy. Don't try taking it all off in one go, because you don't know where the grain's going to run off to. I can see, look, it went downhill a bit, so it'd be better off for me coming on this side now. Oh, here we go. So slowly at this stage, you don't want to tear anything off from the other side. There we go. I'm just going to continue cleaning all these up. It's very hot here today, and I'm sweating, and we want to turn the fans on so we can cool down, and you can't hear us when the fans are on, so I'm going to get on with it. Okay, so I've removed these two. Now I just need to remove this last piece. Again, just pay attention to the grain direction. Don't start down too deep. Take off a little bit of material to begin with. You can see this is running downhill. That's okay. Okay, so now I'm just going to clean things up with a bit of sandpaper. But basically, here we have it. So I'm going to clean everything up with a bit of sandpaper and make it all smooth and nice and finished. I'll just put a bit of wood in here, about the width of the groove, and simply taking my time. And after I've sanded the grooves, I just want to break these corners a little bit. So I take a block of wood like this, put the sandpaper on it, and now I can just sand and break those corners. Because otherwise they'll probably break by getting wet. You've got square corners. Okay guys, so here's our finished product, our nice little soap dish made out of cedar, which is great for soap dishes because it's rot resistant. You don't need to put any finish on it. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like and subscribe. You can click up here and yeah, share it with a friend. Thanks ever so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.